In 1903, the world was betting $50,000 of government money on a powerful scientist to conquer the sky. But he failed catastrophically. Just 9 days later, two self-funded bicycle mechanics from Ohio cracked the true secret of flight, not with power, but with the genius of three-axis control, an idea sparked by twisting a simple cardboard box. This is the incredible, untold story of a secret 12-second hop on a remote beach, the bitter patent wars they fought to defend their discovery, and why their simple system still guides every plane in the air today. Get ready to witness the dawn of the aviation age. Be sure to hit that subscribe button, leave a comment below about your biggest flight fear, and smash the like button. 12 Seconds of Destiny. The untold story of the Wright brothers' first flight. Context: the sky that waited. An era of aspiration and gravity. The closing years of the 19th century were characterized by a profound public fascination with flight. For centuries, the dream had been enshrined in myths of Icarus and Daedalus, but now, fueled by industrial progress, engineers and enthusiasts worldwide sought to conquer gravity with machinery. Yet, failure was the norm, often culminating in tragedy. A pivotal figure in this era was Otto Lilienthal, a German glider pioneer whose systematic documentation of flights provided a crucial, if flawed, starting point for serious experimentation. Lilienthal's death in a gliding accident in 1896, however, highlighted the fundamental barrier remaining. Most pioneers focused on generating enough lift and sufficient engine power. They overlooked the more critical, elusive problem: control. Achieving brief, unstable hops was possible, but sustained, predictable maneuverability, the ability to intentionally steer an aircraft, was still the missing link, the secret to true freedom of the air. The bicycle shop revolution. The two men who would crack this code, Orville and Wilbur Wright, hailed not from elite universities or military research divisions, but from a pragmatic bicycle shop in Dayton, Ohio. The profits generated from their business, where they manufactured and sold bikes, provided the sole funding for their ambitious aeronautical experiments. This financial self-reliance proved invaluable, shielding them from the external pressures and rushed timelines that plagued publicly funded projects. Their approach was rooted in careful, steady progression, a philosophy perhaps best captured by a quote attributed to them: "Men become wise just as they become rich, more by what they save than by what they receive." Crucially, the bicycle shop was not just a source of capital, it was their laboratory. It was here they crafted their experimental gliders, designed their first engine, and most importantly, built the revolutionary tools needed to test their theories. The triumph of skepticism, redefining aerodynamics. Unlike many contemporaries who accepted published data as gospel, the Wrights found that their early glider performance did not match the results predicted by existing tables, particularly those derived from Lilienthal's work. Rather than dismissing their construction as faulty, they made a critical decision. They questioned the foundational science itself. This willingness to reject established authority propelled their success. The brothers designed and built a sophisticated wind tunnel and a unique bicycle-based force-balancing mechanism. By testing model wings, they discovered that Lilienthal's data regarding the necessary angle of attack to produce lift was profoundly inaccurate, requiring more than 3 times the predicted angle. This breakthrough, founded entirely on their own meticulous, accurate data collection, shifted their work from simple, iterative trial and error to precision engineering design. Their success stemmed not from luck, but from scientific rigor and the courage to distrust global authorities when empirical evidence contradicted them. The fall of the aerodrome. The Wrights' calculated, self-funded methods stand in stark contrast to the parallel efforts of Samuel Pierpont Langley, the celebrated astronomer and secretary of the Smithsonian Institution. Langley's attempt, the aerodrome, was an expensive, high-profile government project backed by a massive $51,000 congressional grant. Langley succeeded in building a powerful, custom-made 53-horsepower engine, weighing only 125 pounds. However, the aerodrome was fatally flawed. Langley, fixated on power, ignored the necessity of active pilot control. His design was inherently unstable, too large to be maneuvered by the pilot's body weight, and lacked an effective control system. Had it flown, the pilot, Charles M. Manley, would have been in considerable danger during an uncontrolled descent. In a dramatic piece of historical irony, Langley's two full-scale attempts ended in disaster. On October 7th and again on December 8, 1903, the aerodrome tumbled violently into the Potomac River upon launch. 9 days later, broken by failure and public humiliation, Langley's dream was definitively extinguished. This sequence of events cemented the understanding that technological supremacy requires mastery of function control over mere expenditure funding. The control problem, the real invention, the genius of three-axis control. The true and enduring contribution of the Wright brothers was not the first engine or the first pair of wings, but the invention of a stable, integrated control system that enabled the pilot to effectively steer the aircraft and maintain equilibrium in 3 dimensions. This systematic approach solved the problems of pitching up-down, rolling side to side, and yawing left-right. The spark for their solution came when Wilbur observed how twisting a long cardboard box changed the geometry of its surface, leading him to the concept of wing warping. This became their patented system for lateral roll control, a network of cables and pulleys that allowed the pilot to twist the trailing edges of the wings in opposite directions, thereby increasing lift on one side and decreasing it on the other, inducing a controlled turn or recovery from a disturbance. The climax: 12 seconds that changed the world. Waiting for the wind. To conduct their experiments, the Wrights had returned to the bleak, windswept dunes of Kill Devil Hills near Kitty Hawk, North Carolina. They chose this remote location based on extensive national weather records, which promised consistent, strong headwinds and the safety of soft sand for frequent landings. Their finished machine, the Flyer Dupor, later famous as the Kitty Hawk, was a marvel of custom engineering. It featured a 40.5-foot, 12.3-meter wingspan, measured 21 feet, 6.4 meters long, and weighed approximately 605 pounds, 274 kilograms, without the pilot. It was powered by their own handcrafted 12-horsepower gasoline engine. The chronology of December 17, 1903. The pivotal moment arrived on a cold, blustery Thursday morning. At 10:35 a.m., Orville Wright, lying prone on the lower wing, took his position. The aircraft was launched down a rail track and, using engine power alone, lifted off into a 21-mile-per-hour headwind. The first successful, controlled, sustained flight of a heavier-than-air powered aircraft lasted exactly 12 seconds. It covered a distance of 120 feet, 37 meters. The momentous occasion was captured for posterity not by a professional photographer, but by one of the 5 witnesses present, John T. Daniels, an employee of the nearby Kill Devil life-saving station. Daniels, who had been tasked by Orville to operate the camera at the precise moment of liftoff, secured one of the most famous photographs in history. The other 4 witnesses, local men W.S. Doe, A.D. Etheridge, W.C. Brinkley, and Johnny Moore, stood as silent, astonished guardians of the dawn of aviation, the day's work, and the unexpected ending. The brothers conducted 4 flights that day, alternating piloting duties. The distances and duration steadily improved, culminating in the 4th and longest flight, piloted by Wilbur, which spanned 59 seconds and covered 852 feet, 260 meters. However, the Flyer's career ended shortly thereafter. After the final successful landing, a sudden, powerful gust of wind caught the machine, flipping it end over end. John T. Daniels, who attempted to hold the machine down, famously recounted his sheer terror as he was caught up in the collapsing structure. "I found myself caught in them wires and the machine blowing across the beach heading for the ocean. I tell you, I was plumb scared. When the thing did stop for half a second, I nearly broke up every wire and upright getting out of it." The machine was irreparably damaged, the telegram of triumph and the press's indifference. Immediately following the flights, Orville wired home to his father, Milton Wright, using a local telegraph key. The historic telegram stated their success, noting the 21-mile-per-hour wind and their longest time of 57 seconds, a slight error in transmission. The actual time was 59 seconds, and included the poignant, hopeful line, "Inform press home Christmas. Orville Wright." Despite this immediate attempt to publicize the event, the press largely ignored the news. The widespread failure of high-profile projects like Langley's had cultivated such profound public skepticism that the idea of two bicycle mechanics achieving controlled-powered flight seemed too preposterous to report. The world had just witnessed its future, but it failed to notice. It would take years of increasingly public and perfected flights to gain the widespread recognition they deserved. The pursuit of recognition, patent wars and historical justice, secrecy and perfection. Faced with disbelief and keenly aware of the revolutionary value of their control system, the Wrights practiced intense secrecy after 1903, conducting limited public flights between 1905 and 1908 primarily to protect their patents. This period was used to refine their engineering, yielding the Wright Flyer 3 in 1905, considered the first truly practical fixed-wing aircraft, capable of sophisticated maneuvers including the first aerial circles. Following their triumphant public demonstrations in 1908 and 1909, they finally closed the bicycle shop and established the Wright Company to manufacture and sell their planes and train pilots. Hit that subscribe button, drop a comment with your thoughts, and smash the like button to support our history deep dives. The battle for intellectual property. Success brought challenges, namely extensive legal battles to defend Patent 821,393, which covered their method of three-axis control. The primary target of their litigation was Glenn Curtiss, a rival who utilized ailerons, separate control surfaces hinged to the wing, for lateral control, rather than the Wrights' original wing warping system. The ensuing patent war was bitter and protracted. The Wrights successfully argued that the function of the aileron, controlling lateral stability, was covered by their patent, even if the mechanism differed. This legal victory established that the Wrights' true ownership lay in the concept of three-axis manipulation. The litigation, however, began to impede the burgeoning American aviation industry. The necessity of air power for national defense during World War I ultimately forced the U.S. government to intervene, creating a patent pool that allowed all manufacturers, including Curtiss, to pay a blanket fee for the use of aviation patents, thereby ensuring that industrial development would not be stalled by intellectual property disputes. This pivotal moment revealed that the breakthrough achieved in a humble bicycle shop had instantly become an issue of critical national security. The exile of the Flyer. Perhaps the most dramatic testament to the Wrights' commitment to historical accuracy was Orville's protracted feud with the Smithsonian Institution. For decades, the Smithsonian stubbornly maintained that Langley's failed government-funded aerodrome was the first machine capable of sustained piloted flight. In a profound act of protest against what he viewed as the Smithsonian's attempt to rewrite history in favor of its own failed secretary, Orville sent the original 1903 Flyer R's overseas to the Science Museum in London in 1928. Orville described this dramatic move as the only way of correcting history, noting that the foreign display would be a constant reminder of the reasons for its being there, and a rebuke to the institution's false and misleading statements. The original aircraft did not return to the United States until 1948, only after the Smithsonian formally admitted that the Wright's 1903 flight held primacy in the history of aviation. Legacy: the universal wings. From novelty to necessity. The military potential of the airplane was recognized immediately by the Wrights, who viewed the aircraft as a natural extension of existing reconnaissance tools like balloons. Initial talks with the U.S. government were slow, but by 1907, the U.S. Army Signal Corps advertised for bids, setting performance criteria that effectively only the Wrights could meet. In 1909, they delivered the first military aircraft. This critical development came with a terrible price. During the 1908 Army trials, a propeller malfunction caused a crash that severely injured Orville and killed Army observer Lieutenant Thomas E. Selfridge, marking the first military fatality in aviation history. Despite the setbacks, military adoption accelerated, and by the start of World War I in 1914, the airplane had rapidly evolved from a curious invention into an indispensable element of strategic combat. The enduring language of flight. The most profound and lasting legacy of Kitty Hawk is not the specific artifact of the Flyer Y, but the invisible fundamental code of control they established. The principle that governs every successful airplane, from a hobby drone to a supersonic fighter jet, is the Wright's three-axis system. Their achievement was not merely building a machine that flew. It was defining the foundational physics and mechanics required to master flight. Conclusion: a triumph of method. The story of the Wright brothers is an enduring testament to the power of methodical inquiry, self-reliance, and intellectual integrity. They demonstrated that true innovation is not achieved by applying the greatest power or securing the largest government grants, but by possessing the deepest understanding of the physical problems at hand. They rejected the conventional wisdom that governed their era and built their own scientific foundation for success. Decades after that 12-second inaugural flight, Orville reflected on the invention during World War II, acknowledging the dual nature of their creation, comparing the airplane to the discovery of fire. I regret all the terrible damage caused by fire. But I think it is good for the human race that someone discovered how to start fires, and that it is possible to put fire to thousands of important uses. Two mechanics from Dayton did not simply build a flying machine. They invented the language of aerodynamics, setting a standard for control that continues to guide every aircraft traversing the modern sky. Hit that subscribe button, drop a comment with your thoughts, and smash the like button to support our history deep dives.